hearing before the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission in a cause docketed before the Commission as cause number 45557, Tdsic 8, captioned as Verified Petition of Northern Indiana Public Service Company, LLC, for approval of petitioner's updated 2021 to 2026 Tdsic plan, including actual and proposed estimated capital expenditures and Tdsic costs that exceed the approved amounts in cause number 45557 Tdsic 6, and to defer and recover 80% of eligible and approved capital expenditures and Tdsic costs in connections with Plan Update 5 through the Tdsic, and to defer 20% of eligible and approved capital expenditures and Tdsic costs in connection with Plan Update 5 for recovery in its next general rate case pursuant to Indiana Code Section 81399. Notice of the time and place of the hearing was given as provided by law by publication in Marion County's Indianapolis Star on January 27, 2026, and Lake County's Post-Tribune on January 24, 2026, and Lake County's Northwest Indiana Times on January 27, 2026. These are newspapers of general circulation, and these publications were made at least 10 days prior to the date of the evidentiary hearing. The proofs of publication of the notices have been received by the Commission and are now incorporated into the record of this cause by reference and placed in the official files of the Commission. Notice has also been given to the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor and other interested parties. May we have appearances, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. Appearing on behalf of petitioner, Northern Indiana Public Service Company, LLC, please accept the appearance of Tiffany Murray.
Morning, Judge. Philip Casey on behalf of the Indiana Office of Utility Consumer Counselor.
Thank you. And will all those who are known to be witnesses in this cause please stand and raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you will give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Counsel?
Thank you, Judge. At this time, Nipsco is going to offer the evidence for the witnesses that have been excused from attending today's hearing. Those exhibits have been marked as follows. Petitioner's Exhibit Number 1, the verified direct testimony of Shirley A. Schultz. Petitioner's Exhibit Number 1C is confidential attachment 1B, confidential exhibit electric plan update 4, and confidential exhibit electric plan update 5. Petitioner's Exhibit Number 3 is the verified direct testimony of John Subotnick, and Petitioner's Exhibit Number 3C are the confidential pages in Mr. Subotnick's direct testimony.
Counsel, you have any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
Excellent. Hearing no objections, we'll admit Petitioner's Exhibit 1, 1C, 2C, I'm sorry, Exhibit Number 3 and 3C into evidence.
Thank you. Nipsco calls Chad Wichwalski to the stand. Good morning, Mr. Wichwalski.
Good morning. Is this all right? Very beautiful.
If you would please state your name and your business address.
Yes. My name is Chad Wichwalski. My business address is 801 86th Avenue in Maryville, Indiana, 46410.
Thank you. And by whom are you employed and in what capacity?
I am employed by Northern Indiana Public Service Company, LLC, or Nipsco. My position is Director Asset Class Owner for Electric Asset and Risk Management.
Thank you. On the table there before you, do you have exhibits 2, 2C, 2R, and 2RC?
2, 2R. And then I also have, yes, the following 2 and 2C.
2C and 2RC.
2C and 2RC.
Are those exhibits your direct and rebuttal testimony in this cause?
That is correct.
Do you have any corrections to those pre-filed exhibits?
I have no corrections.
And do you adopt 2, 2R, 2C, and 2RC as your sworn testimony?
I do.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, Nipsco would offer Petitioner's Exhibit 2, 2R, 2C, and 2RC into the record.
Any objections from those you are?
No objections, Your Honor.
Thank you. Hearing no objections, we will admit Petitioner's Exhibit Number 2, 2R, 2C, and 2RC into the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. My understanding is OUCC has waived cross-examination, so Mr. Richwalski is available for commission questions.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Excellent. Thank you. We have a few questions. I'm going to remind you you are under oath. Commissioner Swinger.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, Mr. Richwalski.
Good morning.
As you may know, we have 3 new members of the commission, myself included. I've had some involvement in Tdsic cases in the past at, say, the 20 to 50,000 foot level, but this is my first time getting involved with them in a more granular, down in the weeds kind of level. So I wanted to ask you some questions this morning with that in mind, and these questions will be pretty similar to what I asked of Nipsco's gas Tdsic witnesses at that evidentiary hearing last week. So just for starters, your testimony indicates you've been with the company since 2009, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so you were around when the current Tdsic plan was developed and approved, and also the previous Tdsic plan that started in 2016, is that correct?
That is also correct.
And what was your involvement in the development of both of those plans?
Yes. For the development of both plans, as the role within asset and risk management, we are the coordinators of the plan, facilitating conversations between the different investment categories, being deliverability, grid modernization for the second plan, and of course, aging infrastructure. We are also the submitters for types of projects that involve asset management, assets that are reaching end of life. We coordinated with our partner, Sargent & Lundy, which is an engineering firm, to build our business cases. And we also support the development of the testimony to support those cases.
And how about the trackers and plan updates that have happened? What's your level of involvement been there?
Until 2023, I was support and a subject matter expert for both the business case and some projects within the plan. And in 2023, that was the first time that I became the witness and plan owner for Tdsic.
So you've testified in these cases since 23, but not before then, is that correct? Okay. Thanks, Amy. You've testified since 23, but not in the cases before that. Is that, am I hearing you correctly?
That is correct.
Any involvement in your part on the gas Tdsic, or have you strictly been involved with electric?
I have strictly been involved in electric.
Gotcha. And how would you say the oversight of the plan tracker and updates, how have they been consistent over the last 5 years?
So we do have a fairly robust oversight of our projects and programs within the Tdsic plan that include many organizations and their expertise. So from the initial onset of the plan and development, we of course have our steering committees and leadership teams that are translating the strategy of the company into actions that our departments can take involving our system and our assets and our performance. We then, as we develop those plans, we do have our committees that will give us guidance on making sure we are getting the system performance that is desired through the investments that we're making and how we're prioritizing those investments. And then the oversight within execution and engineering also involves those same leadership teams and is robust in the different stage gate that projects must go through to ensure that we are achieving the desired goals of those projects within an appropriate investment level.
And as the plan updates and tracker proceedings have gone along, it's fair to say that in some cases the overall impact has increased the customer's bill in some cases, but there have also been trackers where it's adjusted down. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
And over the life, or excuse me on that one, and what you have pending right now is a plan update. There's no immediate impact on the bill as the result of the order that'll come out in this one, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. To what extent do you communicate with your peers at other Indiana electric utilities about their Tdsic plans and trackers?
So specifically on their Tdsic plans, not directly. However, we do participate in the IEA, the Indiana Energy Association, where we can ask questions that are relevant to those types of investments. When we are trying to solve, for example, reliability challenges that our peers would be also experiencing, we get to ask about that. What types of solutions and mitigations have they proposed? We don't ask directly that if they're involved in their Tdsic plan, but if they're involved in their overall program.
How have those conversations been helpful as you've implemented the plan?
The IEA conversations are extremely beneficial to ensuring that we are providing the best benefit to our customer. With the technologies that we are deploying within our grid modernization, we are not on the forefront. Nipsco is certainly not leading that, so we get to learn from other organizations about their challenges and how they've optimized their plans.
When it comes to the cost fluctuations, the volatility, the reliability of the cost estimates, how would you compare Nipsco to its Indiana counterparts?
So I do not have experience in comparing costs from other utilities for their programs. Overall, when we did develop the plan, we did do benchmarks on what is reasonable for the amount of reliability benefit or risk adjustment that we are getting.
And what about monitoring trends with infrastructure costs, either nationally or regionally? How does that factor into the equation?
It plays a large factor in our most recent plan. The impacts from COVID have caused what I would consider an unprecedented change in our estimates in specific services and materials. Our plan was built with a 3% escalation factor, and in many instances, the estimates that we are receiving back in order to execute our programs is much higher.
I want to go back to the escalation factor a little bit later as we get into your testimony, but if you could, please, could you turn to page 10, line 5 of your direct? And it's on line 5 here that you start discussing how Nipsco manages its Tdsic electric costs. On line 13, you refer specifically to a project manager engineer. And I'm curious as to how many of those folks Nipsco has.
I don't have the exact number. I apologize, Your Honor.
Generally speaking, are we talking all company employees, or are we including contractors and subcontractors in that?
So what is referenced here are the internal project managers. There may be specialty type projects or actions within those projects that require external support, and then our project engineers are split between internal and external support.
So it's a variety of internal and
That's correct.
contractors. A few lines down on line 17, you refer to the plan owner. Who is that?
I am the plan owner for this TDIS plan.
And
For this TDIS plan. Yes. Sorry.
and you have been, sorry.
For this TDIS plan. I apologize. I realize we say it wrong up north. Tdsic.
In the pages that follow here, you outline a rather detailed process the company uses to track the dollars regarding Tdsic work orders. And you also outline the process on how you confirm whether a project is eligible for Tdsic treatment and recovery. Looking back over the life of the plan since 2021, how would you say those processes have evolved?
So those processes have evolved as we, within each of the organizations, within engineering, project management, and then project engineering, which actually sits between both organizations. So in the past, we have a lot of what I would consider paper-based manual verifications, meetings in person. We have automated those systems for better document tracking. So we have matured in our processes so we can leverage the data and lessons learned that we have as projects change and evolve to influence our future projects.
On a similar vein, if we go to page 21 of your direct and lines 6 and 7, you refer there to preliminary engineering for most projects being consistent with a Class 5 estimate. If you look back, was that sufficient? Could have most of these have been Class 4 instead?
Great question. So as part of our process, we're identifying projects multiple years out. And in order to reduce the risk of the environment or cost changes occurring in between the detailed engineering and the execution of the project, we identify the projects with a very low level of detail, more than 4 years out. We are then scoping 3 years in advance using detailed scoping and site walkdowns to further refine those estimates. And then we're using detailed engineering 2 years in advance to even further refine the scopes and needs of that project. 1 to 2 years in advance, that's when we're getting the actual bids back from our competitive bid process for the actual work that's being completed. So there is opportunity that we could get detailed estimates further from the execution of the actual work, but we start introducing more and more risk that the environment or costs could change and impact the execution of that project.
Speaking of cost changes, I'd like you to turn to page 25 of your direct. And this is where you get into the escalation factor and inflationary pressures. You give examples here of how costs for wood poles have risen. You give examples here for how costs of substation projects have risen. I have to say the numbers are, they got my attention for certain. If you had to give your company a grade on how it has dealt with and is dealing with these increases and the inflationary pressures that drive them, what kind of a grade would you give?
Is this grading scale like A, B, C, or 1 to 10? A? Honestly, I would give ourselves an A because we are leveraging external parties, internal subject matter experts to find better engineering alternatives, finding means to achieve the same benefits or performance improvements while spending less as these costs increase. And I will say, while wood poles have increased quite a bit, they are still a very economical solution to our system and serving our customers.
Page 27, you talk about the supply chain. And I know you don't have a crystal ball, and neither do I, but what's your prediction on where the supply chain issues and the costs that go with them are going to go as we look ahead?
From what we understand in meeting with our vendors and our peers from the industry is we don't anticipate getting back down to the levels of anticipate escalation or cost changes that we had seen in the past. We do anticipate a higher escalation factor in future years with some more specific material like power transformers and steel being beyond the average. And we're adapting our estimates to reflect that.
And how does the company plan to factor customer affordability into the equation here?
A great question. So as we select and then develop our projects, project efficiency is at the forefront of everything that we do. So we are translating customer affordability into project efficiency. When we are doing our projects, those projects are selected because of the benefit to the customer in the system. So when we go through our scoping process, we are identifying best routes, best equipment, best material that will serve the customer needs without the large impact to their rates or to their costs. And we do that through many exercises within our standards group, looking for alternative materials, alternative technologies. Then we get into project execution, and we use a competitive bid process. Within that competitive bid process, we are taking similar type resources and essentially choosing the one that has, of course, a good safety metric, but also a good performance that we can translate into actually executing that project efficiently and on budget.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that COVID was a significant factor in all of this. The devil's advocate would say it's been a while since COVID, the pandemic's been over a while. Why are these problems or issues still lingering?
Yeah, great question. For the overall industry, we have not normalized. We still have those inflated costs that did stem from that 2020, 2021 time period. We have seen some recent estimates that have come back down from our 24 estimates into our 25 and 26. So that is a benefit again to the project and the customer cost. But overall, we do see that as it is going to play a much bigger risk moving forward without solutioning with our peers and finding better engineering alternatives.
I'd like to go to page 28. On lines 7 and 8, you say internal resource capacity limitations have driven more usage of external vendors. Can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by that?
Absolutely. Our internal workforce does have a primary focus of keeping our customers in power, preventing outages and restoring from outages. That means there is a certain capacity that they have that they will not be able to work on our capital projects. So with that, that is our traditional physical resources. Beyond that, we have very specialized resources that we need to complete our projects that are very limited within our company that we're having to leverage to enhance the safety and reliability of our system through projects like grid modernization.
So that requires the use of more external vendors.
Absolutely. It does require the use of external vendors in lieu of expanding our internal workforce, which would not be sustainable.
The need to use external vendors, has that been pretty consistent over the plan, or has that increased in the more recent year or two?
The use of vendors has been fairly consistent in the amount that we're using them. However, their costs have not been consistent since the beginning of the plan.
And have they varied?
They have increased faster than our anticipated escalation rates.
Jumping ahead to page 29, here on lines 16 through 18, you say as engineering for the 2026 substation projects has been completed, it was determined that existing sites were either too small to accommodate new equipment or the surrounding area has been built up. The devil's advocate would ask, how could you not have known that, it wasn't too small, and how did that happen?
Great question. So when we are selecting these projects for, in this example, in support of our communication network, we're using a generic site within our unit costs, assuming that some will be too small, some will actually meet the requirements so we can deploy these assets properly. For these, we're finding more that when they were originally designed, the footprint of these sites was just enough to fit the equipment and be able to operate and maintain them properly. They're not to accommodate these additional structures, these additional pieces of equipment that we need to further enhance our reliability and performance.
How does that play in with you described earlier how you start with a class 5 estimate, then you go down to 4, you go down to 3. Okay. I'll try to repeat that. You talked earlier about how you start with the class 5 estimates, then you work your way down through 4, 3, et cetera. How does that tie in with what you've described here?
Yes, absolutely. When we are scoping and estimating, which means we're moving from our class 5 to the AACE class 4 estimates, we are doing site walkdowns. That's when we're identifying with our standard footprint that we need to accommodate new assets. Does the existing site actually meet those requirements? Can things be reconfigured? Or do we actually need that site expansion to accommodate those assets?
I'd like to look more broadly. We've discussed various reasons for the rising costs. What would you say is the single biggest factor that's driven this?
Well, there are many factors. The material costs that we are seeing for even these standard types of equipment, not the new grid modernization that provide enhanced performance, just our standard wood poles, steel structures, power transformers their costs have gone beyond what we could reasonably have anticipated.
And to what extent should that call into question the reliability of the original estimates?
So as part of those AACE class estimates, there is a wide margin above and below what is acceptable, given that you only have 0 to 2% of the actual scope defined for that project.
Does this reflect any shortcomings in the accuracy through which the costs were estimated?
I don't believe so. With traditional escalation and traditional advancement within our industry, we could expect there to be cost increases, but we have had nothing historically that would driven us to say we would experience this level of escalation.
One of the reasons I'm asking these questions is, as I'm sure you're aware, there have been increased concerns expressed by Nipsco customers about their bills, rapidly rising bills, affordability in general. And in that vein, what steps has the company taken to try to mitigate the cost impacts in these projects?
Yes, I can only speak specifically on the Tdsic projects.
Fair enough.
We have explored what we're calling engineering alternatives. What technologies or what materials can we use that will serve the same purpose, but may cost slightly less, and what will the cost be over the life of the asset? So within our plan, we have 2 life extension programs. Historically, before we expanded these programs, if we came across a wood pole or steel structure that did not meet structural requirements as set by code, we would replace it. Within these programs, we can now extend the life through treatments, through reinforcements, or in the case of steel, member replacements. So we are exercising technologies and techniques to extend the life of our assets to maximize their life without having that larger capital investment. And that's true for many of the investments within our footprint.
Do you communicate with peers about this?
So yes, the alternatives that we are exercising, like the steel program, we actually will speak with other utilities, not just on behalf of the vendors that we are using in support of these programs, but as benefits to our asset management programs themselves. In 2025, we spoke at 2 AEIC conferences, one virtual, one in person, about leveraging techniques like this to lower the customer burden while still getting benefit to your system and performance.
What about the stakeholder feedback you get from consumer parties? And this could relate to what you've been talking about, or it could be more focused on regular updates you provide them regarding upcoming filings, trackers, plan updates, et cetera. Tell me about that process.
Absolutely. So outside of written testimony, we actually do have in-person and sometimes over the phone meetings with our stakeholders to discuss projects that have increased in cost or increased in scope, or perhaps that would provide a slightly reduced or increased benefit to those projects. Those sessions that we meet are actually very beneficial to us. We get to hear direct feedback from those that are supporting our customers on, is this valuable? What was the reason for these cost increases? Are you still getting the same value that you originally had requested? So those sessions that we hold are incredibly valuable, and we get great feedback from them.
And you engage the Consumer Counselor's Office, CAC, and the industrial group in those conversations?
Yes, they are all invited. There are instances, of course, in the past where not everyone has been able to attend, but all are invited.
And how much weight do you give to the stakeholder feedback you receive from the consumer groups?
Tremendous amount of weight. These are interveners that we don't get to meet with on a daily basis. So getting their feedback as they're meeting with our customers, or they actually represent in the terms of the industrial group, our actual customers, their concerns, as well as just a knowledge share of them understanding what's going on the system that is supporting them and their industries.
As you continue that dialogue with consumer parties, what steps can you see Nipsco taking in the future to more carefully address and assess customer affordability? And if that's confined to the scope of the Tdsic projects, I understand that's your role.
Yes, absolutely. And within the scope of Tdsic, having the conversations of what alternatives have we looked at? It could be as simple as the route paths for our rebuilds for our circuits with the wood and steel structures that we're talking about, or it could be as advanced as what new technologies are we introducing to receive the same benefit, if not better, with a less impact to the cost of the customer.
And how can you see this applying in the future, whether it's to the next Tdsic plan, whether it's to the performance-based rate making that will be coming up? Tell me how it all ties in the future.
All of these investments are tied together, be it just in future TS plans and projects and programs or performance-based rates. The end goal is to satisfy our customer, whether that be in affordability or reliability. So having those clear paths of communication and explanations so they can understand, here's essentially where the dollars are going, here's the benefits that you're getting, and here's all the things that we're doing to make sure that in the future we're trying to get more benefit for fewer dollars.
I think for now that covers the questions that I had. I appreciate you coming down this morning, and I don't have anything further at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for your testimony. You are excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, anything further?
No, Your Honor. Thank you. Petitioner rests.
Public?
Nothing further, Judge. But I would like to get some testimony admitted.
Excellent.
Your Honor, the Office of Consumer Counselor seeks to admit public exhibit number 1, the testimony of OUCC witness Rupala Senka.
Any objections?
No objection, Your Honor, and Nipsco waives cross-examination.
Hearing no objections, I will show Public's Exhibit number 1 admitted into the record. Anything further?
Now there's nothing further.
Excellent. I understand the parties will have a proposed order to us by March 9th.
That's right, Your Honor.
Excellent. Hearing nothing further, we are adjourned.
Thank you.